Why would someone assume a VA loan? Well, for a couple different reasons. And our market right now is a great example. When interest rates are high and you have a veteran that bought a home when the interest rates were really low, this could potentially open up their house for a bigger pool of buyers. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about VA assumable loans. I'm going to be going over the overall process, what it looks like to assume a VA loan compared to the more traditional mortgage, talking about some of the pros and cons and why I think it might be a good option in today's market. With that said, if this is your first time stopping by, I just want to say thanks. My name is Mike. I'm a realtor here in Boise, Idaho. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into what a VA assumable loan is. When a veteran or active duty service member qualifies for a VA home loan, some of the benefits of a VA loan is typically you get lower interest rates. There's no down payment requirement. You typically have funding fees, which tend to be less for the veteran, whereas a traditional mortgage, you're going to have closing costs, which tend to be a bit higher. So there's a lot of advantages going the VA route. Now, let's say that veteran is looking to sell that home, get another mortgage, or they can have their loan assumed by a buyer. Now, what's really nice about the VA loan is it can be assumed by not only a veteran, but a civilian as well. Now, there's some differences as far as how this will affect the seller of the home, which you need to be aware of, and something we will dive into here in a little. But I wanted to make that point very early in this video because most people don't realize that civilians can assume a VA loan. So why would someone want to assume a VA loan? Well, for a couple different reasons. And our market right now is a great example as to when this might be beneficial to both buyer and seller. When interest rates are high and you have a veteran that bought a home, let's say a few years ago when the interest rates were really low, this could potentially open up their house to qualify for a bigger pool of buyers. As a buyer, you can benefit from this because if you're going through the pre-approval process right now at the current interest rates, you're probably looking at getting pre-approved with a 7.2 or 7.4% interest rate. If there's a house on the market that's allowing you to assume their loan for, let's say, 4%, that's a huge difference in your monthly mortgage, which would be a huge savings for the buyer. Some other cost savings, the buyer can avoid certain expenses typically associated with new loans, such as, like I said, the closing costs or appraisal fees. Now, they will have what is referred to as a funding fee. And on a VA loan, you're looking at 0.5%. So 0.5% compared to closing costs on a typical VA loan says here about 2.15%. So it's a big difference, big cost savings to not only the buyer, but seller as well. So that's a list of the pros as far as, why someone would want to assume a VA home loan. But what are the cons? Some of the cons are here the buyer has to occupy the home as their primary residence. Every lender is going to ask you if this is going to be your primary residence or your secondary, and that's because if it's your primary, you tend to get better interest rates, better down payment requirements, and so on. Another con to the seller is going to be your VA entitlement. When you go and purchase a home as a veteran and you use the VA loan, you're using all of your entitlement. If the person assuming it is a non-military buyer, then the seller's VA entitlement remains tied up with the original loan until it is fully paid, potentially affecting the seller's ability to obtain another VA loan. So that is definitely something you're going to want to be aware of. Now, if you sell your home to another veteran, there is a potential where you can have their entitlement take over the mortgage loan and you get your full entitlement back. So that way you can use your VA home loan again to go purchase your second home and take advantage of the VA benefits like you did the first time. Another con is not every lender is going to allow for VA loan assumptions, so you'd have to talk with your lender and see if that's an option for them. There is a potential for buyers with less than favorable credit histories to face a higher down payment requirement when assuming a loan. And one of the last cons that we run into is a release of liability. It says here, after the loan assumption, original sellers should obtain a release of liability form to ensure they are no longer financially responsible for the loan. This step is crucial for protecting the seller's financial interests. And what this is talking about is, although the buyer has signed agreement saying, yes, we will make, the payments from here on out moving forward until the balance of the mortgage has been paid off. Let's say they don't. Well, then you as a seller, you are going to be held financially responsible. Let's say the civilian buyer defaults on that home. You could potentially lose the rest of that entitlement because of the buyer defaulting on your home. So there are definitely some complexities to a VA loan assumption. You definitely want to make sure you are working with someone that is knowledgeable in this area, and be cautious when it comes to this program. There are a lot of benefits like we've talked about, but with anything, it's a give and take, and so you just want to be educated on the topic before you decide to move forward with this loan assumption. Now, the process of assuming a VA loan is a little bit different from a conventional mortgage, but you're still going to be ran through the same pre-approval process from the lender. So they're going to pull your credit, they're going to want 2 years of tax returns, they're going to verify your income, so on. It's very similar to the normal pre-approval process. One of the big differences is the cost savings to both the buyer and seller, but the other big difference too is the liability to the seller regarding the entitlement and the release of liability. Those are two things that if the seller was to sell their home just the normal process, they wouldn't have to deal with that. The buyer would come in with their own mortgage on that home, and as soon as the home closed, as soon as the transaction closed, the seller would then be released of all liability from the home. But that is the VA loan assumption. The reason I wanted to do this video is because I'm starting to see a lot more of these pop up, as well as owner carry financing and FHA assumable loans. And since we are seeing these more and more, and since the interest rate has not come down like the Fed had anticipated, people are starting to get creative when it comes to their finances and how to better market their property and get a bigger buyer pool so that they can sell their home for top dollar in this market. Now, if interest rates do start to come down as we get further into 2024, you might not see as many of these pop up, but for the veterans and whether you're buying and or selling, this could be very beneficial, save you a lot of money in the long run, get you into a home with a very low interest rate where your mortgage is going to be very manageable. We're starting to see short sales and foreclosures come back, and with the price of, I don't know where you guys are at, but with inflation, the price of gas rising, food costs, and so on, people are starting to default on their monthly payments. When I look at some of the clients that I'm helping buy right now, whether that's first-time home buyers or second-time home buyers, and we're looking at their interest rate and their monthly mortgage amount, it is very difficult out there for that common person to be able to swing that. And so I think we're going to start seeing more foreclosures and more short sales. But there can definitely be some benefits to the loan assumption program that the VA offers. So I want to make sure that you're working with someone that knows what they're doing to keep you guys protected as you go through that process. Now, if you guys have any other questions that maybe I didn't touch on, please go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to get back to you with some answers. That's all I have for this one. If you guys got any value, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps. Till next time, I'll see you guys then.